Professor Dr. K.C. Shankaranarayanan, sir, former head, Department of Applied Economics, Cochin University of Science and Technology for inaugural address, and he will give us an overview of Kerala economy. The inaugural address will be followed by the keynote address by Professor Dr. K.P. Mani, sir, former head, Department of Economics, Calicut University. Before the winter, we will be having a question-answer session. We shall end the webinar with a note of thanks by Ms. Christina Baby of 3rd BA Economics. As we all know, we can admit only a limited number of participants in this particular platform. So we have arranged a live streaming of this webinar on YouTube, and the link for the same is sent via email and in the chat box. I think I'm audible to you all. If I am, can you give a thumbs up in the chat box? Okay, great. Thank you. We request all the participants to mute your audio and kindly not cause any disturbance during the session. I repeat, we request all the participants to mute your audio and kindly not cause any disturbance during the session. We will have a question answer session. You can ask your doubts either in Malayalam or English language as messages in the chat box. We will be providing the link for the feedback form in the chat box in the last minute of the session. The certificates will be provided to those who answer or those who scored about 40% in the questions provided. With God Almighty, we can begin the webinar. May I invite Ms. Adira Nair of 2nd BA Economics for the welcome address. Over to you, Ms. Adira.
Thank you, Ms. Adino. Good evening, everyone. I'm pleased to welcome you all to the national webinar on challenges and prospects of Kerala economy post-COVID-19, organized by Postgraduate and Research Department of Economics, funded by UGC and Paramar Scheme. I'd like to welcome our respected principal, Dr. Shanti A. Avara, Mar Athanasius College. It's a great honor for me to welcome the guru of our teachers, Professor Dr. K.C. Shankaranarayanan, sir, former professor and head department of applied economics, Cochin University of Science and Technology. We have heard a lot about you from our respected teachers. Sir, we are really privileged to have you with us today. I'm deeply honored to welcome our keynote speaker, Professor Dr. K.P. Mani, sir, former professor and head department of economics, Calicut University. Sir is also Board of Studies member of Department of Economics, Mar Athanasius College. Dr. K.P. Mani, sir, is the most apt person to speak on our today's topic, Kerala economy. It's my honor to welcome the members of Academic Council, Professor Kuruvilla Joseph, sir, IIST Trivandrum, and Dr. M.C. Dilip Kumar, sir, former Vice Chancellor, Sanskrit University. It's my privilege to welcome the Board of Studies members of our department, Professor Dr. S. Harikumar, sir, former professor and head of Department of Applied Economics, Cochin University. Dr. Vijay Mohan Pilla, sir, Associate Professor, Center for Development Studies, Trivandrum. With due respect, I welcome Dr. P. Arunachalam, sir, current head of Department of Applied Economics, Cochin University. I'm honored to welcome Dr. P.K. Bedi, sir, the Director of Department of Youth Welfare, Cochin University. With all due respect, I welcome Dr. M.S. Vijaykumari, Miss, Dean of Academics, Mar Athanasius College. I'm pleased to welcome Dr. I.G. George, Miss, Head Department of Economics. Special welcome to all our 450 various members, postgraduate fellows, research assistants, members of industries, IT professionals, politicians, and all the students from various institutions within and outside Kerala. I welcome you all once again. Over to you, Ms. Adina.
Thank you, Ms. Adira. May I invite Professor Dr. K.C. Shankaranarayanan, sir, former head, Department of Applied Economics, for the inaugural address. It will be followed by his session on the overview of Kerala economy. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. The video. Good evening, Professor Dr. Mani, Dr. I.G. George, my other friends and colleagues, teachers, research scholars, students, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, and her team for organizing a webinar on such an important subject. I am extremely happy to participate in this webinar on probable consequences on Kerala economy during the post-COVID period. We are holding this webinar at a time when the economies of all the countries are reeling under the pressure of COVID-19. Nobody has ever visualized the possibility of the present situation just 1 year before. How long this situation will continue is not sure at this stage. The country's ability to wriggle out of this situation will depend on their ability to convert challenges into opportunities and their ability to raise additional resources. The history of COVID-19 in Kerala is well explained in today's Hindu. So I'm not going into the details of that. Since the topic of our webinar is the shape of the Kerala's economy post-COVID-19 period, let me first give a bird's eye view of Kerala's economy at present. This is not a well-researched opinion, but taken from mainly the economic review of Kerala. Kerala, as we all know, is one of the most beautiful states in India. It has its own features and development history. Kerala's development experience, I don't use the word Kerala's model, because a model must be capable of duplication or replication. So I use the word development experience is different from the development of the other states in India and even other countries. Kerala defied the growth process and sustained the growth theory of Rostow. Last 2 years, Kerala experienced the worst floods and landslides since 1924. But Kerala wriggled out of these calamities by concerted efforts of all the people, irrespective of politics, caste, religion, etc. This year, Kerala, along with the whole world, is reeling under the pressure of COVID-19 pandemic or the Wuhan virus. The economic and social consequences of this pandemic are difficult to predict at this stage, as we at present don't know when this pandemic will come to an end. Until some effective vaccine is developed, this uncertainty will continue. But now we have some hope, because we read from the newspaper that some testing of a new vaccine is going on even in India. So let us wait and see what will be the effect of this vaccine and whether that will be able to contain this contagious disease. A striking feature of Kerala's economy is the relatively low size of its manufacturing sector. This sector contributed only 7.5% to Kerala's GSDP. Apart from medium-sized industries, the industry sector comprises of large number of micro and small enterprises, especially in the rural areas. It is commonly agreed that Kerala, with its vast tracts of eco-sensitive areas, is not suited for the establishment of large industrial units. Because of these limitations, the industrial sector should make use of advanced technologies, including bio and nanotechnologies, and develop industries that are relatively small. Such industries should have strong linkages with Kerala's agriculture and natural resources. State must also encourage modernization of traditional industries. The agricultural sector, after showing negative growth rate over the past several years, showed a positive rate of growth of 3.64% in 2017-18. As per the land area data of 2017-18, out of a total geographical area of 38.86 lakh hectares, total cultivated area was 25.78 lakh hectares, that is 66%. And the net area sown was 20.40 lakh hectares, that is 52%. Land put to non-agricultural use stands at 11% and forest area 28%. The cultivable waste constitute 3%. The cropping pattern in Kerala is dominated by cash crops. Food crops comprises mainly of rice, tapioca and pulses accounted for 10 to 12% of the total crop area. Cash crops accounted for 61.6%. Some added interest is now seen from the state as well as people in general in developing agriculture and allied economic activities. The contribution of the fisheries sector is declining due to large-scale pollution of the sea and rivers. Kerala is well known for its achievements in social development indicators. The education system of Kerala is believed to be inclusive and almost universally accessible. But the quality of education is very low because of the massification process. Various committees recommended methods to improve education, but the implementation of the recommendations was half-hearted because of pressures from vested interests. For promoting education, there are 14 universities, higher technical institutions, and polytechnics, several training institutions. There is one central university and centers of other state and deemed to be universities also. Under the universities, there are 219 arts and science colleges, 156 aided colleges, and 63 government colleges. Kerala has made significant achievements in the health sector. This helped to achieve high life expectancy, low infant mortality, low birth rate, and death rate. This has also helped the state to minimize death rate under the pandemic. In spite of these benefits, Kerala is facing the re-emergence of many contagious diseases. Kerala is an internationally recognized tourism destination. We have to make it more attractive and rewarding by developing infrastructure facilities at the nearby places of these tourist destinations. Another feature of Kerala is the existence of high rate of aging population. The state is passing through the most critical stage of demographic transition. More than 12% of the estimated population are senior citizens. The state has decentralized government through participation of people. In 2012, decentralized planning was introduced in the state. The district planning committees prepare plans. These plans are incorporated in the local government plans. Educated unemployment is a serious problem. The incidence of unemployment in Kerala is nearly 2 times the all India average. Productive employment of youth is imperative for economic development. But the Kerala Economies Review 2018-19 presents a dismal picture on this. The state's finances is in doldrums. State's own revenue resources and central revolutions are declining, while revenue expenditure, especially interest on loans, is mounting. The state's public debt is approaching rupees 2 lakh crore mark. The finance minister has ingeniously maintained the fiscal deficit comparatively low by the ingenious way of introducing KIFBI, which is now assigned the role of financier of major projects in the state. The COVID-19 considerably reduced the revenue sources, while expenditure has gone up considerably. Even planned projects are shelved to meet the added expenditure for treating COVID. The capital expenditure to total expenditure is dwindling over the years. Now, I say something about the probable shape of the economy after the COVID. The accuracy of any prediction will depend upon the accuracy of the information on which the prediction is made. But accurate information at this stage is difficult as we are not sure how long this pandemic will continue. But some indications may be given in this respect. First, with respect to economic growth. The economic growth rate will fall considerably. The state will find it extremely difficult to maintain the growth rate positive. This will be all the more difficult as the government will be forced to cut capital as well as revenue expenditure due to drying revenue sources. The state is expected to get from the central pool less as a result of the new principles adopted by the 15th Finance Commission. Unemployment situation will become precarious and consequently poverty will become rampant. Most of the prosperity of Kerala was the result of foreign remittances of our NRI diaspora. But COVID-19 has forced a large number of NRIs to return. This will result in reduction in foreign remittances. The NRIs deposits in Kerala banks is estimated to be around rupees 2 lakh crore. The income disparity will increase. A large chunk of the labor force engaged in trade, commerce, self-employment, etc. will lose their jobs. The market for local products will shrink, so many of the local produce will find it difficult to market. New skill sets will be required to face the new environment. So the youth will have to reskill and upskill to remain relevant to the labor market. The digitalization process will pick up. It will take considerable time to reorganize the economy. Most of the planned projects will be delayed or abandoned. Already there is considerable delay in project implementation. Some projects have taken more than 40 years to complete, and that has resulted in high cost overruns. I just give an example, that is Muvatupuzha Valley irrigation project. The original estimated cost of which was 48 crore, and recently it was completed at the cost of 1,082 crore. The transportation system, including the metro, will become almost bankrupt. It may take at least 5 years to overcome this position. It may be pointed out that the trajectory of economic growth in India is largely influenced by consumption. This is also true in the case of Kerala also. A big push will be required to wriggle out of the situation created by COVID-19. but the state will not be in a position to give that big push, and so the economy will be languishing at least for the next 5 years. For easing the state's economic situation under the COVID-19 will largely depend on whether the central government is willing to make up the revenue losses of the state through proper fiscal and monetary assistance. But the chief economic advisor of the government of India, Dr. Krishnamurthy Subramaniam, and the vice chairman of the Niti Aayog, Dr. Rajiv Kumar, are not supporters of Keynesian economics. They believe investment as the key driver of economic development. So they may not be favoring more liberal fiscal and monetary packages, as they believe such policies will result in inflation and low rating by rating agencies. Recently, those who read newspaper will know that Dr. Raghuram Rajan, a former governor of the Reserve Bank of India, has indicated the possibility of a financial crisis during the post-19 period. This is because of the mounting NPAs and bankruptcy procedures adopted by the banks. The statement of the present RBI governor lent support to this statement. He says that the NPAs may climb to 14.7% by March. So, even if the central government makes available for lending, they may be reluctant to lend, and the excess money they will try to deposit in central bank. So, the future of Kerala economy just after the COVID-19 will be somewhat. With these words, I declare this webinar open. Thank you. Hello.
Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable class on Kerala economy and its development. May I invite today's keynote speaker, Professor Dr. K.P. Mani, sir, former head Department of Economics, Calicut University, for the next session. Over to you, sir.
Good evening. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Yes. Most respected Dr. Shankaranarayanan, sir, other senior professors, college management committee members, college principal, head of the department, academic dean, other faculty, listeners from different parts of the country. Once more, a warm welcome to the discussion on challenges and prospects of Kerala economy. Now, when I planned this presentation, there are two objectives for this program, for this presentation. Number one, it is to give an idea about Kerala economy to the undergraduate, postgraduate research students, because in the syllabus of all the universities in Kerala, they have included either a module or a paper on Kerala economy. And majority of the students of economics or any other related discipline, they are quite familiar with the national economy. They are quite familiar with the global economic issues, but knowledge about regional economics, it was very, very limited. And I still recall when I was doing my post-graduation in late 1970s, there was some discussion initiated by Dr. B.A. Prakash on Kerala economy. And I feel that he played a crucial role in bringing an area called Kerala economy. But today, of course, it is a part and parcel of almost all the universities. So the purpose of this presentation, number one, is to give an idea about the Kerala economy to the students. Now, the second objective of this presentation, as mentioned by Professor Shankaranarayanan sir, the impact of COVID, what impact it will be going to create on Kerala in the coming years. So with this introduction, let me start. Since many students are listening me, I'm starting with the very, very simple propositions only. Now, as all of us know, the Kerala state was formed on 1st of November 1956 as part of State Reorganization Act. Then, there's a very, very interesting myth what I observed. When I raise this question, simple question, how many princely states were amalgamated to form Kerala state? I used to get the reply, 3 princely states, which is a wrong information. The Kerala state was formed by just combining 2 princely states, Cochin and Travancore. The third one, Malabar, it was only a district under Madras presidency. Why I just mentioned about a simple example, because we are not very much aware about the Kerala history or Kerala economy. So this is how the Kerala state was formed. Then when we just look into the 65-year development of Kerala, both the governments, what you call the UDF as well as LDF, both the governments ruled the state. Then who is responsible for the more development of the state? Who is responsible for the problems of the state? It's a very, very interesting question to discuss, but anyway, I'm not going to that agenda for time being, since the discussion will be political, but this is purely an academic session. Now, just for convenience, I wish to divide the Kerala's development from 19.
Hello, sir.
Connection gone.
Hello. Sorry.
Most probably link is lost.
I think so, sir. It's not getting the link. Hello. Hello. Hello.
Yes, miss.
What happened, Adina?
I think it will be a connection problem for Mani, sir.
Not from our part.
No, not from our part, no. We all are here.
Yeah. What happened? Hello. Hello.
Yes, miss.
Hello, Manisa.
Okay,
Manisa.
Okay.
can you hear me now?
Okay, sir. Yeah,
Okay.
okay, sir.
I got some technical problem. Anyway, so I was just talking about the uh, evolution of Kerala state. Now I stopped with 1975 to 1990, the second phase, where there is increased migration from Kerala state to the Middle East, other states. Then naturally, there is some notable change in the culture of Keralites. And in continuation of this, we had some notable developments. One is high investment, number one. Number two, the technological changes. Third one is rapid urbanization and also high growth. That is from 75 to 1990. Then, of course, in 1991 onwards, we had the era of globalization. Globalization also had some positive impact on Kerala economy. Then comes the recent issues, the problem of COVID and all that. Now, this COVID, quickly, there are two or three very important impacts of COVID. One is those who are in the Middle East and other countries, they are coming back. We are just observing. So, as Professor Shankarnarayan sir mentioned, huge unemployment is going to be one serious concern. Number one. Number two, the loss of migrant labor. The migrant labor from other states, they already left Kerala state. It is going to affect our agricultural sector, our small scale sector. Then the third one, it is going to affect the growth process of Kerala economy. Last year, previous year, our growth rate was around 7%, and our per capita income was nearly 2 lakhs in current prices and approximately 1.5 lakhs in constant prices. But just for a fun, I made some calculations. What will be the growth rate of Kerala in the next 2 years? I put it as a fun estimate because they are based on available random evidences only. And I found that our growth rate will be around 3 to 3.5%. If everything goes relatively positive, you see from approximately a 7% growth rate, we are going down to 3 to 3.5%, which will affect our per capita income also. Things may be much bad sometimes. Of course, we don't have the complete data to completely say what is going to happen tomorrow. So, at present, the future of Kerala economy is very, very bleak because of in terms of growth, in terms of unemployment, in terms of migrant labor, in terms of performance of small scale industries, in terms of mounting NPO banks, and so on. So this is outside macro observation about the impact of growth. Now, as I mentioned you earlier, this is this discussion is little syllabus oriented also. So now let me move towards sector by sector and which are the important issues. Now the first and the most important sector of Kerala, of course, it is agricultural sector. Even though the share of agriculture in the state domestic product is considerably coming down. Now, when we talk about agricultural performance, in the case of agricultural sector, again, we can put it as from 1960 to 1980, then 1980 to 1991, then 1991 to till date. So we can have three phases. I'm not going to the details of each and every phase because it is a macro presentation, but some concerns, some issues. Now, one issue today, it is the clear-cut significant shift in cropping pattern. After 1980, our cropping pattern has favored the cash crops. And today, we are producing only 18% of the rice requirement of the state. The remaining we are importing from other states. Of course, you may raise a counter question, why, what is wrong in it in terms of comparative cost theory? If we can produce some other agricultural crops at lower price, why don't we concentrate on that? Of course, a number of arguments are there, but our food security problem is in a big crisis. Our food security is in a big crisis. One issue. Now, second issue, it is the question of agricultural commodity prices. The agricultural commodity prices are coming down. And again, I made some calculations based on the average agricultural commodity price and found that two issues are noticed. One is the agricultural commodity prices are declining at a rate of nearly 18% every year on an average. The price of agricultural commodities are coming down, number one. Number two, the price spread. The price spread means the price received by the farmer and the price paid by the customer. That difference is very high, which means the intermediaries are exploiting farmers even today. Then another issue is then, or if I make it little brief, then what is the solution for this? Because solutions are more important. Now, for the agrarian crisis, one solution which is very, very important today and which receives some attention from the side of the government, that is three types of activities. One is agro processing. Number two, the value addition. Third one is agri business. If we want, we can add one more, that is agricultural entrepreneurship. The future of Kerala agriculture lies in to what extent we can go for agro processing, to what extent we can go for value addition. But you should keep in mind that the present rate of agro processing in the state, it is below 10%. It is below 10%. Particularly during the days of COVID, where there is unemployment among the youth, when there is unemployment among the youth, a large number of people are coming back from the countries. You can think of providing employment through agricultural entrepreneurship, agri-business, and so on. So there is then another very interesting trend about observed at the all India level and also in Kerala for the last 2 or 3 months during the COVID period. One sector which performed very well in India, that is agriculture sector. 2 weeks back, there was a report by CMI, Center for Monitoring Indian Economy, that the growth rate of agriculture in India crossed 10%. It was 2%, 3% in the previous years. It has exceeded 10%. And in Kerala also, for the last 3 months, the growth rate of Kerala agriculture is about 7%. So it is a very, very interesting to observe that the COVID had some positive impact on agricultural growth. It is because people turn to agriculture. Today, the agricultural activities is very common in Kerala, very common in the country. So this gives an opportunity. What I feel is the COVID is giving an opportunity for agricultural prosperity, particularly for small farmers, then domestic agricultural activities, and so on. So this is about agriculture. So the agri-business, value addition, processing, etc., gives some opportunities for farmers during the days of one sector. Now, the next sector which I want to touch upon that is the performance of the industrial sector in Kerala. Of course, Kerala is considered to be a industrially backward state. Different hypotheses were there in 1970s and 80s. Why our industrial sector is not performing well? But today, just taking the performance of the manufacturing sector in Kerala, of course, size is very, very limited. The performance of the manufacturing sector, it was around 3.5 percentage. And for the last 6 months, it is found that it is around 2.7 percentage. That means the COVID has not very much affected the manufacturing sector. Of course, the reason is very clear because it is highly organized, and the question of migrant labor, etc., is not going to affect the performance of manufacturing sector. So, manufacturing sector is still doing good in the backdrop of COVID also, but its share is very, very, very limited. But when we come to the other sectors include the small scale sector, medium, minor, and also informal sector. Performance of the informal sector is the worst during the last 5 or 6 months. Why the performance of the informal sector is bad? Mainly because of the displacement of migrant labor. The migrant labor already left back to their own states. And as a result of this, the growth rate of the informal sector, it is negative for the last 3 months. It is negative. Then an alternative is left out. That alternative is whether the migrant labor can be replaced by the unemployed labor force in the state. This is a very important option because there are returns from Middle East, other parts of the world. Unemployment is very high in Kerala state, that even technically qualified persons are employed. Then there is a question whether some replacements are possible. And I just worked out the replacement rate, and I found that if 100% of the migrants are totally gone from the state, nearly 65% can be replaced by the domestic persons, so that they will be getting employment also, and it will be leading to the revival of the small scale sector, particularly a small scale as well as the informal sector. So there you can think of some replacement, because the majority of the small scale sector, they are dominated by the traditional technology, conventional technology, etc. Then some 2 or 3 other issues of Kerala's industrialization. One is our role in the promotion of IT industries, because for the last 5 or 6 years, we are trying to improve the IT sector in Kerala. But the performance of IT sector, it is not still satisfactory, and 3 important reasons are identified for that. One is high cost of IT operations in Kerala, number 1. Number 2, the falling profit of IT firms, and third issue is the local employment issues. So these are 3 important identified issues relating to the performance of the IT sector. Then another sector which is important in the state, particularly for provide infrastructure, it is the power sector. In power sector, the most important factor to be mentioned, that is a transmission loss. In some industries or in some power activities, transmission loss is nearly 20-22%. So one challenging question before us is how to reduce the transmission loss that is related to the power sector. Then one more, because I'm just mentioning about the role of infrastructure. Now, another one is the transportation sector. When we talk about transportation sector, conventionally we talk about road, rail, as well as waterways, even though we leave the other one. But in the case of Kerala's transportation network, there are improvements in road transport, but still the role of railways and the scope for waterways, they are neglected. They are neglected. Our priority is exclusively going for road development. So my point is, it's high time to reorient our transportation policy. We have to develop our waterways. In olden days, in old Kerala, we had the waterways, but due to different reasons, that is totally neglected. So to what extent the water transportation system can be revived, that is another important issue. Then the students of economics know a very popular discussion, that is railroad coordination. But that railroad coordination is not very effective in the state, or even the development of road transport system. So I was just touching upon the power sector, IT sector, and also the road or transportation sector, just to make you clear that the infrastructure development is not at the sufficient phase in the state. Now, the macro growth rate of infrastructure in the state covering power, transport, IT, these three, it is only 4.2%, just 4.2%. But the required rate for the state, once it was estimated by National Applied Economic Research, they put it as nearly 7.4%. So there is a big gap between the required growth rate in the infrastructure and what we achieve. So, but we used to put this argument earlier also. The bad infrastructure is responsible for the backwardness in the performance of productive sectors in Kerala. But still, we are not doing much. So, I was just talking about the infrastructure sector. Now coming to the fourth sector which I want to mention, that is about the tourism sector. Now, of course, as we know, tourism, Kerala state was very, very God's own country. Many explanations are there. And one of the sources of Kerala state domestic product, it was tourism. But the tourism sector is totally affected by the COVID. And what is the loss in the tourism sector? It is found that nearly 43,000 persons lost employment in Kerala. Of course, based on the available estimations, nearly 43,000 persons already lost employment in the hospitality industry in Kerala. The other loss, economic loss, forward linkages, backward linkages, all these are beyond it. So one sector which is totally adversely affected as a result of COVID, that is the tourism sector. Now, whether a quick revival of the tourism sector is possible, and based on the available evidences and what we come across the world, for the next 2 years, things are not going to improve much. Things are not going to improve much. So the revival of the tourism sector, which gives good amount of foreign exchange to the state, because tourism helps development in three respects. One is in terms of foreign exchange. Second one is employment, which is the most important one, direct and indirect employment. And third one, it is regional development also. it promotes regional development. So naturally, the regional development will be adversely affected. Then one more point about the tourism. When we look into the tourism in the previous years, when things were so fine, we feel that tourism is concentrated to certain sectors or certain types of tourism. There are some other areas of tourism where there is wide scope, but we have not developed those sectors or those areas. So the impact of COVID on tourism so high, so high. When we will be able to come back is a big question mark. Then next sector which I wish to touch upon, that is the banking sector. Now in the banking sector, there are some very interesting points in the performance of banking sector. In Kerala, the total deposits in the country, Kerala is having dominated in the total deposits of the country. And if you take the composition of total deposits in the country, nearly 49% of the bank deposits are composing of foreign remittances. But for the last 2 years, the foreign remittances are consistently coming down. And for the last 3 months, I just looked into what is a share of foreign remittances. It was from 49%, it came down to 32%. There is a clear-cut significant fall in the foreign remittances. And I made some projections and found that it may go down to just 22% by the end of 2020. So we are going to lose a bulk part of our deposits. But the previous story tells us that everything was fine with respect to the deposits. Kerala banks were considered to be the collection centers. Kerala banks were considered to be the collection centers. But the other question mark is related to advances. Question mark is related to advances. And you may be knowing that there is a concept used by the bankers, CD ratio, credit deposit ratio. And the credit deposit ratio in 1980s and 90s, it was just 42%. Of course, now there is an improvement until 2019. It was around the 58-59%. But again, it is found that for the last 6 months, the CD ratio of Kerala banks has gone down further. And the latest figure, of course, an average figure, bank to bank, it is varies. But the latest figure, it is 39%. Our CD ratio is 39%. Why this has happened? Mainly because there is no demand for investment. The investment climate in the state is very bad. Things are going to be worse in the coming months because of the COVID situation. But of course, recently central government declared a policy for promoting investment in the country. If that policy is effectively functioning, if that policy is effectively working, if the package effectively working, of course, there will be some improvement. But there is a counter question for me. Just by pumping money into the economy without providing other requirements for development, can we think of a substantial increase in investment, a substantial increase in investment? That is one issue. Another issue is why, even if there are some applications for, loans, many banks are denying it using the term feasibility, or they put it as viability, feasibility or viability of the project. Then consider three variables: deposits, advances, and CD ratio, credit deposit ratio. The performance of Kerala banks are not satisfactory, leaving deposits. Deposit side is okay. Now, currently, there is another challenge. That challenge is the mounting NPS, non-performing assets. Of course, I do admit it is not a problem specific to Kerala alone. For the entire country, the NPA is mounting. It is around 7%, the all India level. And in Kerala, the NPA for the last 4 months, based on the SLBC, State Level Bankers Committee report, it is around 4.5%, while their target is around 3 to 3.5%. But the most disturbing point is next month, in the coming months, this is going to be further deteriorating. So the performance of the banking sector in general is not satisfactory, or again, there are some adverse effects. Then what is the option to overcome this issue or to overcome the banking crisis? 2 or 3 suggestions can be offered. One is a package declared by central government about 2 months back. That must be made effective, but that can be made effective only if the other linkage facilities are provided by the state government. So we should have a industry investment promoting policy for the state, taking into account the present COVID crisis. Similarly, banks should come forward to finance small scale. What I suggest is minor projects. If minor projects are offered, the advantage is the unemployed labor force in the state, they can apply. They can apply. One simple example, which I mentioned earlier in relating to agriculture, the question of agri-business ventures. Agri-business ventures. NABARD has special schemes to finance agri-business ventures. But how many of our young generation coming forward to undertake these types of loans? So my suggestion is to overcome the COVID situation, banks should come forward to finance small schemes, the productive sectors like agriculture, industry, and our youth should be prepared to undertake the startups, if I put in modern management term, to go for startups. The entrepreneurial culture in the state should be totally changed. Of course, there are some changes now. There are some signs of change now. So there should be a proper linkage between the productive sectors, the banking sector, and also entrepreneurship. These three are equally important. And in this context, I recall some years back in 90s, we had a program called PMRY, Prime Minister's. Then it came in different names later, and the banks used to give training for the youth. But the problem is how many of them started the projects, and even if they start the project, to what extent it was success? The success rate was below 5%. So that should be changed. So then again, I wish to link this with the idea of vocational training. There is a course now called BIVOC. Now BIVOC, which university is having the BIVOC program? Some other universities are having the BIVOC program. Some colleges are having the BIVOC program. But after the BIVOC, whether they have the opportunity to enjoy a bank loan, to start their project. So what we require is a total linkage between all these activities. All these, particularly during the days of COVID and its impact. Now, so this is about banking banking. Now, next coming to the education. Now, in education and health, two primary and well appreciated sectors of Kerala. Now, in the education sector, again, I wish to raise some concerns. As far as the primary education is concerned, everything is going well, reasonably well. But what about higher education? In higher education, the biggest question is the quality of higher education. Quality of two issues are there. One is the quality of higher education, and number two, the employability of the graduates coming out of the colleges and universities. And as far as Kerala state is concerned, this is a very, very big question. Recently, there were some attempts by the government to reorient higher education. JEMIS committee was appointed. The JEMIS committee put forward a number of good suggestions. Their core idea was we should go for innovative education, innovative programs. And I think some steps are going on now. So how to improve the quality of education and how to improve the employability. Of course, employability is a national level issue, not limited to Kerala alone. That is number one. Number two, when we look into the spatial distribution of higher education institutions in Kerala, they are concentrated in the southern districts of Kerala. Still, the northern districts are not, of course, things have improved a lot over the years, but still there is a disparity between the northern Kerala and also southern Kerala. Then another point is if we just consider the colleges and even the universities in the state, majority of the colleges are offering conventional courses. This is what was objected by the JEMIS committee recently. We should go for innovative programs. So launching of innovative programs. Then another point is the majority of the professional and the technical courses are offered in the self-financing colleges. A lot of debate is going on in Kerala about the working of self-financing colleges. Now, again, when we consider the question of the quality of self-financing, the performance of self-financing colleges, we have to admit that majority self-finance, not all the colleges, the majority of the self-financing colleges are not maintaining the required quality due to different reasons. So, the restructuring of the self-financing colleges, that is also we have to think of. So in the education sector, primary education part is relatively better, but higher education, there are a number of challenges. Then one more issue related to education today, as an impact of COVID, we are moving towards digital platforms. This is the recent change now, digital platforms. Of course, digital platforms are good, online teaching is good. But the primary question is whether our IT infrastructure is competent enough to provide digital platforms, or what the engineers call, they put it as information superhighways. Whether the information superhighways are properly developed in the state. So the development of digital platforms, of course, not only in education, but in other sectors also, the scope for digitalization depends on the availability of IT network. But to what extent that problem is captured by the government, whether our information superhighway is well developed, that again, but we have to think a lot about it, because tomorrow what is going to happen? When today there is news in the newspaper that when we will be able to reopen those schools and colleges. Is it possible in September, or whether we should postpone it to October? It all doubtful in the present scenario. So we have to think of online teaching, but in the efficient way, that is the most important challenge. Then one word about the primary education. Regarding the primary education, I just told everything is fine, relatively better in the primary education, fine. But what about the again the quality of our 10 standard students or 12 standard students? My question is, our pass percentage is 90 plus for many years, and number of A plus grades also so high for the last 10 years. So, but what about the competency uh, of these children? So, is it high time to rethink our valuation system, or whether the marks are inflated, or whether we should go for the old style of results, 30%, 40% they pass? These are some of the issues to be looked into. Then comes the next sector of Kerala, that is the health sector. Now, health sector, a lot of discussions are going on now. And we have, first of all, we have to appreciate the present government, irrespective of, without considering the political considerations, political thinking, because the government is doing the best to control COVID. That is to be appreciated and commented. But at the same time, the broad health problems, as a result of improvement in health, our infant mortality rate improved, birth rate improved, life expectancy improved, everything is fine. But the problem of lifestyle diseases, the problem of geriatric rehabilitation, geriatric care, the problem of communicable diseases, that all these are very important. Two or three important challenges before the health sector. That is the geriatric problem, lifestyle diseases, and also the other types of communicable diseases, everything. So these areas should get more attention in the coming months. As far as geriatric care is concerned, it's a very in the coming years, geriatric care is going to be one of the very important issues in the coming years, and the rehabilitation of the old age people, that is very important, uh, very important. But whether the geriatric care is properly linked with the decentralization, whether it is properly linked with the Panchayati Raj, still not. So the local bodies, Panchayati Raj, these institutions can do a lot to provide geriatric care. Then another concern is about the performance or primary health centers. Primary health centers are getting admiration now, but and of course, primary health centers are really good. But the problem is whether the common man is accepting that reality, or whether they understand the reality that the primary sector, health sector, primary health centers, they are doing very well. That is another issue as far as Kerala is concerned. Then regarding another area, that is about the state finance, Professor Chandranaran sir already mentioned the problem of state finance controlled expenditure, mounting expenditure. Everyone knows about the problem of mounting expenditure, etc. So I'm not going to a detailed discussion on that. Then another point which I want to touch upon, that is about the decentralization process in the state. It entered into the decentralization process in 1995. So far, 25 years completed. And we have the Panchayati Raj system with the 3 tiers of local bodies with the district, block, and Grama Panchayat. We have the local governance and local planning. But there are some disturbing questions as far as decentralization is concerned. Now, one question, that is the question of whether the real power transfer has taken place from the top to the bottom. That is one important issue. Even though we are practicing Panchayat Raj system for the last 25 years, I don't feel that the full power transformation effectively has taken place. That is number one. Now, number two, the concept of decentralized planning. It's a very good idea. Gandhian idea of decentralization and decentralized plan. But two or three important concerns are there. One is the quality of the projects approved as part of decentralization. And when we talk about the quality of projects, it is mainly the quality of discussion in the Grama Sabha. Because as per the local planning, initial discussions are taking place in the Grama Sabha. Now, whether the discussions are efficient, whether the discussions are politically motivated, whether the discussions are need-based, whether the discussions are resource-based, these are some of the questions to be looked into. Then another issue, it is inordinate delay in the project selection. Then large number of, another issue which I noticed, the large number of identical projects, large number of identical projects. If we, for example, in agricultural operations, if we prefer a particular vegetable in one of the panchayats in Trivandrum, the same trend is continued up to Kasaragod. I really observed this. When I was in the Kerala Agricultural University, I had an opportunity to look into the quality of the projects submitted as a part of planning for not now in 1990s. So the blind imitation of the same or similar type of projects. But today, as part of decentralization and as part of locally available resources, this is going to be an advantage as of COVID in the next coming months or coming years. The availability of local labor, availability of local resources. So definitely, you can think of new projects, innovative projects suitable to the locality. Or if you practice the globalization principle of think globally and act locally. Think globally and act locally. Now the right time to think globally and act locally and to make use of local development. So I think the COVID is providing an opportunity for local development. It's providing an opportunity for regional development because the chances of migration, the chances of abroad employment, the chances of abroad travel, they are limited. But it can, so we are concentrating too. So one impact of COVID, it is localization. One impact of COVID is localization. We have, for the last 3 or 4 months, we have adjusted to be at our home. A big psychological change. But then, of course, some sociologists put it as there are some negative impacts for this because those who were so active now they are limited to their home alone. So there are some psychological problems, depression, everything, but still, like what I put it as opportunity for localization. COVID is providing an opportunity for local development. So tomorrow, when we think of the development agenda, these issues are to be taken into account. The question of localization, the question of making use of locally available labor, the question of locally available other resources, and making a development which is suitable to the global standards. Then another point which I want to touch upon, that is demographic changes in Kerala. But demographic changes is already discussed in to side the problem of life expectancy, the problem of high fertility, all this which is already touched upon the health sector. So I was just trying to mention some of the salient features of Kerala economy. Now, one point which I just kept reserved, that is very famous Kerala model discussion. The Kerala model discussion was so popular in 1980s. In simple terms, we have put it as the good performance of the social indicators, but the productive sectors remain static. But today there is a debate whether the Kerala model was a model at all. Was it sustainable? Whether the Kerala model was competent enough to provide sustainable development to the state. A lot of the debates are going on, and Chandana have also mentioned about the Kerala model development. Now, when we come to a summary part of all these issues, as I mentioned in the beginning, those who learn Kerala economy as either as a module or as a paper, either in undergraduate course or in the postgraduate course, definitely they will be getting some ideas, not the complete picture, but some bird's view about what are the issues of Kerala, what are the challenges of Kerala, what are the problems of Kerala. And tomorrow, when we think of the post-COVID situation, situation, we have to give more attention to 3 or 4 important questions. The first question is how to cope up with the unemployment in the state. Kerala state is already having very high unemployment. This is going to be further accelerated in the coming months. That is one issue. Now, second issue, the revival of our small scale and informal sector. Number 2. Number 3, the sufferings of the common man. The sufferings of the common man, even though they are not measured concretely. You just take the auto workers, you just take the taxi workers, you just take the street vegetable vendors, how they are going to survive tomorrow. And I made a sample study for a different purpose 2 weeks back in Trichy alone, and found that nearly 87% of the informal people are struggling to get just 200 rupees per day. They used to get nearly 1,000 or 1,200, but their income is reduced to just 200 rupees. And the auto wala was getting nearly 1,500 rupees on an average, has come down to 200 or 250 rupees. So in the long run, poverty is going to be a very serious concern. Poverty is going to be, at least ad hoc poverty, is going to be a serious concern. And another area where the COVID has affected, that is the land market, and also the construction sector. The demand for flats has come down by nearly 40%. It was read in the Hindu paper. Some construction firm in Kerala conducted a study, and they found that the demand for flats has come down by 40%. Naturally, when the construction sector is affected, there are a number of linkages, forward and backward linkages. So in short, when we consider the impact of COVID on Kerala economy or any other economy of the world, it is not very pleasant. Things are going to be worse. Worse, they put it. Things are going to be bad. But of course, what is required is appropriate policy framework to be developed by the central government, by the state government, equally important, that is by the local bodies also. In all these discussions about what we should do tomorrow, many economists were focusing on the role of the central government, the role of state government, but what about the role of the local bodies? We should have a policy framework, impact and local bodies, impact and local governance, local decentralized planning. So a localized, I think a localized approach will be able to accommodate the problem of COVID in a more comfortable way rather than a macro framework. So these are some of the random thoughts on Kerala economy. So the for it is nearly 1 hour I was talking with a lot of time. So let me stop for the time being. And I think the organizers will be having a session for 10 or 15 minutes on discussions, comments, opinions, etc. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. It was really an informative session, and I'm sure that it will be helpful for all the participants. Now, we shall have a question answer session. You can text your queries in the chat box, and the resource person will respond to your questions. You can ask your doubts either in Malayalam or English language. We only have limited time, and I kindly request all the participants to utilize the opportunity.
മലയാളത്തില് ചോദിക്കാം, മലയാളത്തില് പറയാം. Questions, comments, whatever it is.
Professor Manisar,
Yes.
I have a small doubt.
Okay, only small doubt. Please, sir. Please, sir.
Yourself, I mean, made it clear that Kerala model, a model for other states, and maybe for even underdeveloping regions also, social development. Why this model did not solve the basic problem of employment for the educated people? And also, nowadays, I mean, when suddenly there was a problem in Gulf countries due to COVID, why these people are, I mean, while the people are coming, it's only short term. I mean, what type of employment opportunities they're going to have in Kerala during the short period of their stay here? Just, I mean, I want to get your clarification on this.
See, what I suggest is this. They observed the term what I used. It is that localized employment opportunities. We cannot expect much employment in the organized sector or the corporate world for next 1 or 2 years, because it is they are experiencing loss, income, profit, everything. So this is what, because of this, I put a suggestion. We should give more emphasis on local development projects, and employment should be generated in the locally generated project schemes. I don't prefer an organized employment generation, unorganized sector, the growth of informal sector.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Just my for example, countries like Singapore or Indonesia or even South Korea, if you compare Kerala state geography, I mean the coastal structure and the type of, I mean, facilities available in the coastal areas, more or less the same. But all these countries exploited their coastal areas in the form of buildings, I mean, port development, or even tourism development, hotel, restaurant development, so many, I mean, entertainment parks they made also their coastal areas. But as you said, Kerala is a model. Why Kerala model, I mean, did not represent this type of developments which took place in these countries?
Not clear, not very clear. Audible, sir. Please, can you just?
Yes, sir. I'm telling.
Uh-huh.
Kerala coastal areas are more or less similar to Singapore or Indonesia,
Okay.
and South Korea, even Japan also.
Okay.
In all these countries, they developed their coastal areas are as a great port cities. I mean, entertainment, I mean, areas are hotels, restaurants, to attract tourists from foreign, more foreigners to their areas. Why Kerala as a model did not, incorporate this type of development activities to develop Kerala coastal areas?
See, I have two points about with you. See, Singapore, you take a case of Singapore. I think that Singapore is having a long missionary development strategy. Even though they made use of costly area for hotels, everything, they did with a very clear planning because in 1949, when the Singapore was formed, they had a very clear vision. Number one. Number two, if the coastal areas are converted into hotels and other types of buildings, etc., can we call it as a sustainable development?
Singapore is not a sustainable development.
See,
You're right.
Can I contribute? Can I contribute?
Most welcome.
See, we can follow the example of Thailand, marinas and all those things for the development of the coastal area. But unfortunately, our planners don't have that type of vision.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I am asking, sir. Why that strategy is not incorporated into the Kerala model of development?
It is possible, but unfortunately, our planners are not interested. You know, we have several plans. You take the case of the smart city plan that is financed by the central government. But what is the progress that we have made? You take the case of Amrut. What is the progress that we have made? We have taken loans from World Bank and other development agencies for constructing roads. And we could not complete these projects even though 40 years have elapsed. So when 40 years have elapsed means how much cost has escalated. So we don't have any urgency. That is the major problem. And with respect to any project, developmental project, 40 to 60% of the money allotted for the project is siphoned off in the form of corruption.
Yes.
Sir, one more question, sir. Mani sir.
Yes.
Recently, while presenting the COVID package for the state or all the industries and agriculture sector, our finance minister, madam, stated one statement: every state is eligible to draw or borrow nearly 5% of state GDP or GDP. I don't know exactly whether state GDP or central GDP. This money they can borrow and can be utilized for urban development or certain projects. But madam told one more statement. But so far, only 14% of the money borrowed by the most of the state government on an average. See, did not say anything about the Kerala state. Most of the states borrowed only 14% of the money which is every state eligible to borrow from that fund. How much fund Kerala government borrowed under this category, and what purpose? Why they did? If it's not borrowed, why they did not borrow this money and utilized for the development of the infrastructure or whatever maybe? Yes, sir.
Yes. See, Kerala has borrowed only 6%. 6%. Because the problem is, as Shankaranaran sir just mentioned, we don't have a vision. And we are little reluctant to approach the central government. But if you take other state, Karnataka or Tamil Nadu, always they go Delhi and get a project sanctioned. Our initiative to get projects through the central schemes.
But this is the legal right, sir. Legal right. Every state has the right to borrow.
But we don't take it seriously. That's the problem. You take a simple example. You know it. See, in our education institutions, people from teachers from Tamil Nadu, they get all the project funding from UGC, NCERT, ICS, or everything. But what about Kerala funding? Kerala teachers very rarely go to UGC or some getting funding.
See, it is not lack of money. It is not lack of money. See, from the 5-year plan onwards, we were not spending what we are getting. And
I
then
mean,
we
that is true. Agree.
So let me add.
from the first 5-year plan onwards. First 5-year plan allocation was, I think, 42 crore. But the Kerala government was not in a position to spend 50% of that. So most of the central projects we could not implement because some component has to be raised by the state. So sometimes the central government gives 70%, the state government has to raise 30%. So because we are not in a position to raise 30%, we left 70%.
Thank you, sir.
Can I add?
Then delays, that is the minor problem. You take any project. So there is a saying that if Japanese take 3 months, you take 3 years for completing a project.
Sir, can I add something?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Good evening. See, basically, what I felt is that Professor Arunachalam was talking about the 5%. For borrowing this 5%, there are certain conditionalities that we have to follow on the basis of the recommended commissions, which we could not follow. That is the one reason that we have a limitation there as far as this 5% borrowing is concerned. When this 5% came, I think in the first week of June, there itself many state governments raised this issue that there are certain constraints and only very limited states could get into it. But Kerala satisfied, I think, up to this time, Kerala satisfied only one condition out of the other two conditions are little bit in the context of Kerala. Then other point that Arunachalam was talking, that developing the port across the state. So if you consider the Cochin port alone, to my information and the available data given in the economics and economic review is that it is totally underutilized. It is utilized just because of Cochin refinery. So when we construct more and more ports, what is the requirement of that? Whether we need it, that is the one question that we have. Whether we have enough merchandise to trade across and to bring. That is another question that we have to take in. The government considered the Vizhinjam project, anticipating that there will be users from Tamil Nadu. That is the one reason. Take the case of Vallarpadam project. There also, the issue is that it is underutilized. So when we bring these mega projects into Kerala, the Kerala picture, then we must be very careful in bringing it, because the pattern of development or the way in which our commodity producing sectors are operating is entirely different from when compared to Karnataka or Maharashtra or Tamil Nadu. So that kind of an infrastructural project we cannot envisage. That is another issue that we have to consider. See, just to take the example of this Vallarpadam project alone, it is underutilized. Then that is the case. It is operating just because they are getting sufficient. They are getting commodities from Tirupur. That is the reason why Coimbatore, Tirupur, like that they are getting. So that fact we have to take into account. Then one more point I have to add as far as Arunachalam was talking, Kerala model. There is Professor K.C. sir is actually saying that I will never call it as Kerala model. It is a development experience of Kerala. The development of experience of Kerala is entirely different, and it is not. We are not supposed to, or we cannot take that other states will follow it. There are certain comparisons if you look at the literature that we can cite, but that kind of a imitation or that possibility we cannot. Why we call it as a chief model? That is also another question we have to think. So this much I wanted to add with the Professor Arunachalam's observations. Thank you very much.
Sir, regarding this particular discussion on this post-COVID situation of Kerala economy, I congratulate both esteemed professors, Professor Shankaranarayan and also Professor Mani sir, for giving a very broad idea about the various sectors of Kerala's economy. And as Professor Shankaranarayan said, the situation looks rather bleak. But Mani sir said there is one area where we can look forward to with some hope. That is the agriculture sector, post-COVID. But as far as Kerala is concerned, Kerala, the agriculture sector is already down. It has been, facing serious crisis for the past several years. And after COVID or even before COVID, since we have been faced problems, especially our cash crops, especially in the case of rubber, what problems we are facing as far as this price fall is concerned. That is mainly because of the policy that is being followed by the center of large scale import of rubber and also other cash crops into our country. And what is the solution for that? Because unless and until we have a definite clear policy on the part of the central government to help the farmers, especially the farming community in Kerala, who undertakes this cultivation of these cash crops. And there has been an agreement with the center, even during Panditji's time, that Kerala is suited for cultivation of cash crops and spices. And our food requirements will be met by the central government. And now, we have been concentrating on this particular aspect, and we have been cultivating all these cash crops and spices, especially rubber, which is supposed to be a strategic crop. And due to the policy of the central government, we are facing a serious crisis. So what can we do about it? What is your opinion on that?
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, regarding your argument.
I would like to put in a word, sir, regarding this borrower limit, which has been raised to 5% of the GDP by the central government now. See, Kerala has been asking for this for a very long time. Since there was a limitation of 3%. Borrower limit has been limited to 3% of our GDP, and we have been facing problems because of that. And this 5%, raising of borrower limit to 5%, that also has been made with very stringent conditions. So I think Kerala is not able to. I don't know about the situation with other states, but Kerala is won't be able to avail of all this 5% because of the stringent conditions also that has been put along with this, this raising of this particular limit. So what can we do about it? We need money. In fact, we are hard pressed for money as far as our development requests are concerned. But center, has not been very helpful. Our GST compensation is still pending. Center, even this award the 15th Finance Commission, that also has been, a limiting factor for us. So due to all these constraints, Kerala is facing a very tough situation. Added to that, we have the COVID problem also. And the most affected is our agriculture sector. So what is your opinion, considered opinion, how we should go about all these problems?
See, my point is, as you rightly said, regarding rubber and all of the cash crops, some policy changes are required, that I do admit. But it is not during the days of COVID, even before that, after the coming of WTO agreement, Doha agreement on agriculture, we have to change our policies, but we are not changing our policies. There are more substantial changes in the rubber. Even if my knowledge is correct, still Rubber Act is based on Rubber Act in 1964. Substantial modifications have not been made as far as rubber economy is concerned. But my point is, we should focus more on localized agriculture, think of value addition, agribusiness, agro-processing in the localized resources, local agriculture, and think of a local agriculture development. The macro side, or in the case of large farmers, in the case of rubber, etc., I do admit we require policy changes, but it has not taken place so far. Agreed.
Thank you. Thank you.
One point I would like to raise. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
See how many crores of rupees we have to get from the center because we have not submitted accounts at proper time. So one way to get more funds from the central government is to submit accounts at the appropriate time. But we are delaying that. There is no urgency with respect to submitting accounts.
That's right, sir. That is one problem with Kerala, that that we don't, after the first payment, I mean the first installment, we have to give a utility certificate. That is not being properly done in Kerala. That is one problem. That is a major issue as far as our state is concerned. And that's how we are not able to, avail of central funds as we would wish to. But the point is, in a state like Kerala, considering its contribution to the overall, financial package of India, the problem is that we are not being, considered to that extent. See, the foreign remittances, our people who work abroad, they send the maximum chunk of foreign exchange to our country. And also, we have been traditionally exporting all these cash crops and spices abroad, and we have been earning foreign exchange. But to that extent, Kerala is not being considered by the center. That is the issue. Not that we are pakka in every aspects, but still, we feel and we require a little more consideration from the center, considering our special problems. Large amount of unemployment, and also, we practically doesn't have much of an industry. Our economy is mainly dependent on agriculture, and also this, sending abroad all these human resources. That has been, beneficial to the country at large. So that kind of an approach, we are not getting from the center. That's what I have been mentioning.
So this was a suggestion from the very beginning. All governments were asking that we must get a proper share of this foreign remittances that our people are making. But unfortunately, the share is not given. And again, what is left, that is siphoned off to Maharashtra and other states. We are not utilizing it.
Professor Mani sir,
Yes.
just one more clarification. Most of the Western countries, and including the newly industrialized countries, all the coastal areas having more than 100-story buildings. But,
You are always bothered about coastal area.
no, development. That is what development is. Otherwise, what is the development?
You are very much bothered about the coastal area and the coming up of higher buildings.
But in India, recently, a building, just maybe 11-story or 12-story buildings in Ernakulam demolished by the government. Whether these environmental rules, regulations are not applicable to them, are only applicable to India, coastal regulations, whatever may be the regulations, I'm thinking. Just want to get your clarification on this.
Will you repeat that? Not very audible. Will you repeat that last part? Yes,
sir. Whether even Gulf countries, most of the cities are in the ocean only, backwaters only.
Okay.
Whether the environmental rules and regulations are applicable only to India, not to other countries.
See, you go to Nariman Point in Mumbai. High-rise buildings are there in Mumbai. So I don't think that it is so government is so particular that no building should come in the coastal area. It all depends. There are no legal restrictions on, and of course, some restrictions are there, but not. I think it's a question of vision only.
We must visualize floating cities.
Sir, so many queries are in the chat box. Would you please answer this? Sir, so many queries are in the chat box.
Chat box.
So would you please answer their questions?
I don't get it.
We don't get it. I don't get it. Will you
Sir,
read?
Queries in the chat. Queries. So many queries are in the chat box.
But it is not seen here. That's the problem.
Okay, sir.
Would you please tell the students to read it loudly for the professors?
Yeah, that is better. That's better. Let them read it.
Sir, one question. What will be the impact of pandemic on fisheries sector?
Impact of?
Impact of COVID on fisheries sector. Fisheries sector. That is one question in the chat box.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yes. Yeah, sure, sir. Sure.
Impact of COVID, it doesn't have any impact on fish asset, but the fishermen, because what we have seen in the Pundra area, they are living as a community. So the chances of community spreading among the fishermen is more, but it doesn't affect the fishing stock.
Yeah.
There is
Okay,
already
thank you, sir.
fish. Well, the catch is declining.
Yes, because
Already
of
the fishing sector is in disarray. So this
that is
will be aggravated. Sorry,
Yes,
very
yes.
good.
aggravated after this COVID period. It will be extremely difficult for these fishermen to pull on.
Okay. Okay, sir. Sir, another question in the chat box, sir, from Dhanalakshmi. Dhanalakshmi. Can I ask the question, sir?
Yes.
How can we uplift our internal economies in the midst of technological changes? How can we uplift our internal economies in the midst of technological changes?
Internal economy, which are the areas you feel?
Internal economies. That is why the question. The question is in that way, sir.
I mean, my doubt is by internal economy, what the student meant actually. What was the idea in your mind?
I mean, must be the externalities, sir.
Externalities. I'm not getting
Positive. How do we create some positive externalities in the midst of technological changes as far as this local government, local development is concerned, or regional development is concerned? Maybe that may be the question. It's a question from Dhanalakshmi, sir.
Okay, but the question is not clear to me. That's the problem.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Whether Shankaranarayanan sir can answer, I'm not very getting the question clearly. Hello?
Okay.
Hello, may I ask the question to Shankaranarayanan, sir?
Okay.
Sir, the question is from Dhanalakshmi. She is asking about how do we improve our internal economies in the midst of technological changes?
You see, meaning economies of scale?
Yeah, must be that, sir. Economies of scale.
So internal economies.
Yeah. Sir.
Internal economies depends on several factors.
Yeah.
So mostly the management, the efficiency of labor, the cost of inputs,
Yes.
then transportation. So I have mentioned about the use of nano and biotechnology because we don't have and we will not be going for large scale industrial development because our state is not suited for large scale industrial development.
Okay, sir.
So use these type of technologies and make use of the benefits arising out of these new type of technologies. See, in the next 5 years or 10 years, most of the technologies that we now use will be obsolete.
Okay, sir.
We now talk about artificial intelligence and the use of robots and all those things in the industry.
Yes, yes, sir.
And many new raw materials will be found out. And all these things will be changed. What we use now as raw material may not be having any use.
Sir, another,
So it all depends on the ingenuity of the management and the labor to
Okay,
make use of the advantages.
Sir, can I ask the next question?
Yes.
Okay, the next question is by Malavika M. Being a state with a significant amount of coastal area, what's the impact of the pandemic on fisheries sector?
yeah, the same question was answered.
Same question was asked earlier also.
Adira, the same question was answered already.
Yes,
Adira.
already answered.
another,
Yeah,
The
sir,
next-
whether. Okay, continue, Adira.
Okay, sir, may I ask you the next question?
Yes.
What is the future of migration from Kerala? Do you think economic relief package offered by government is enough? This question is by Mr. Ravindra Kumar D.
Migration from Kerala is going
Yeah,
not going to improve immediately. Not going to improve immediately, just because of a package.
Okay, sir.
Sir, see, there is one more. Do you think the economic package, relief package offered by the government is enough?
See, I told you earlier in my presentation, a package itself is not sufficient. We should provide the complementarities. We have to provide the complementarities. It should be by the central government, state government, and also by the local bodies.
Okay,
We
sir.
should have an integrated approach. Just by a package, things will not be solved.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Adira, can you please read out the query by Dr. P.K. Baby, sir?
Yes, miss.
Please, sir. Please.
Sir, PK Baby sir says, Mani sir suggested about the opportunities coming in agriculture sector, but I think this is a rare opportunity for entire business to shift technology driven, especially in service and manufacturing sector. Even government officer are in a
Paradigm shift.
paradigm shift. Also, all the PHCs are upgraded, and which will be a greater investment in health sector.
So this is his opinion.
This is an opinion, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, sir.
Thank
Next
you, sir.
question. Can I ask the next question?
Yes.
Yeah, please.
Next question is by Aravind S. Kumar. Sir, what are our chances of expansion and standardization of the blue economy to facilitate a reasonable growth rate in the future? May I repeat the question, sir?
It is already related to fisheries. The question is already answered. The fish, Sangadana already mentioned, the fish catch is coming down. Then the fisher community is totally affected because of COVID. So things are not going to be very comfortable immediately.
Okay, sir.
Okay,
Thank
sir.
you, sir.
Sir, can I ask the next question?
Yes.
Sir, this question is by Malavika M. Sir, do you think developing new power projects by sacrificing our natural wealth, example Adirapalli power project, would be a feasible idea to combat the problems in the power sector? Aren't we supposed to compare the cost and benefit before making this sacrifice in terms of natural resources during this phase of climatic change?
Definitely, these two are equally important. See, we require power, we require environment also. So definitely, we should have a trade-off between these two, done through social cost-benefit analysis. Madhavika herself mentioned about the social cost and social benefit. Definitely, that impact is studied and decided whether we should go for Adirapalli or any other. Both are
Thank-
equally important. Both are equally important.
Thank you, sir. Sir, now may I ask the next question?
Yes.
So next question is by Manjula Miss. Poverty and persistence are two sides of the same coin.
Okay.
So when we fight the pandemic, the state should give more emphasis to poverty eradication programs. I think
Poverty eradication programs or about the problem of those who are directly affected, because poverty eradication programs are already there. For example, free ration is given through PDS. So all these measures are already there. My point is whether we should give more emphasis, more attention to those people who are directly affected by the pandemic. If some
Okay, sir.
special packages are offered, that's better. Other is there, policy measures are already there for poverty reduction.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Sir, next question is by Pearly Anthony. On one side, we are not able to utilize the full capacities of big structural projects like ICTT, Vallarpadam, and on the other side, the livelihood of the indigenous people are very badly affected due to such projects. Sir, I think he wants your opinion on this.
Vallarpuram project is not fully utilized. Agreed. The other part of the question.
And on the other side, the livelihood of the indigenous people are very badly affected due to such projects.
But see, the problem is when Vallarpuram project is commissioned, only a few people are affected. But how can you relate these two? Because the capacity utilized. So her argument is, why should we go for Vallarpuram project? Because capacity is not fully utilized, but the people are displaced. But in the long run, definitely Vallarpuram project will be fully utilized. So I think Vallarpuram project is very, very important as far as the long run development of the country is required, because it's Vallarpuram project is doing a lot in the in Kerala as well as linking with the other ports.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Sir, can I ask the next question?
Yes.
Sir, the next question is by Golda Godley. Sir, how do you think the large-scale retrenchment of expatriate workers from GCC countries affect Kerala economy, especially with the fall in remittances? What remedial measures do you suggest for this issue?
Which country? Can you repeat the question?
Sir, how do you think the large-scale retrenchment of expatriate workers from GCC countries affect Kerala economy, especially with the fall of remittances? What remedial measures do you suggest for this issue?
So what, see, it is an inter-country issue. How can we think of a remedy for this? It's an international issue. Only once they are here, some employment and providing activities. That's because when their remittances are coming down, what solution can be suggested immediately?
Okay, thank you, sir. Sir, can I ask the next question?
Yes.
Next question is by Hari Narayan. What will happen to employment sector of Kerala in future? Will formal sector jobs will fall furthermore in post-pandemic period?
There is chance of further fall. There is a very chance of further fall. Because the real impact of COVID in the corporate sector, organized sector is going to be seen only after 5 or 6 months. By December or January, things will be worse. So definitely there will be further fall.
Thank you, sir. Here comes the end of the session. The feedback form is now sent via email and it is there in the chat box too. I request all of you to submit it as soon as possible And kindly note that the certificates will be provided for only those participants who score above 40% in the online quiz provided. For expressing our gratitude, may I invite Ms. Christina Baby of 3rd BA Economics for the note of thanks. Over to you, Ms. Christina.
Good evening, all. This day, Good evening, all. This day, the inspirational experiences and thoughts the day offered were all a real treasure for us. And so, I feel really blessed and dignified to deliver vote of thanks to this program. Today, we are honored with the encouragements and inspirations of Professor Dr. Shanti Avra, the backbone of Mar Athanasius College. We thank you, ma'am, for the guidance and support you offered throughout this journey. We are also blessed with the honorable presence of Dr. K.C. Shankaranarayanan, former professor and HOD of Applied Economics from Cochin University, a real role model and guru for all the teachers out there. We thank you, sir. We are also fortunate to have the most admirable and praiseworthy Board of Studies member, Dr. K.P. Mani, sir, over here. Sir, we thank you for your informative talk on different aspects of Kerala economy, and we thank you with utmost love and respect. Our function of the day is also privileged with the fruitful presence of Dr. Vijay Mohanan Pillai, former member of CDS and member of Board of Studies, Mar Athanasius College, MC Dilip Kumar, former VC of Sanskrit University, Dr. S. Hari Kumar, member of Board of Studies, Mar Athanasius College, Dr. Leena, former HOD of Department of Economics and former principal of Mar Athanasius College, HOD of Applied Economics, Dr. P. Arunachalam, and Sir Sri P.K. Baby, Director, Department of Youth Welfare, Cochin University. We, the teachers and students from the Department of Economics, Mar Athanasius College, extend our deep and sincere gratitude for your most valuable and precious attendance. Today, we are accompanied by the healthy and friendly support of faculties from the Department of Applied Economics, Cochin University, faculties, students, and scholars of different streams from various institutions all over India, politicians, postdoctoral fellows, resource assistants, and IT professionals. We, the members of Mar Athanasius family, thank you all for your treasure-worthy and inevitable presence. Special thanks to Dr. Nidhi P. Ramesh, Department of Statistics, Mar Athanasius College, for his constant support, Sri Teddy N. Elias and Sri Jacob T. Paul for technical support, Dr. Asha Matai, Department of Malayalam, Mar Athanasius College, and Sri Abel C. Alex for moral support. We also thank all the faculties and students of Mar Athanasius College, Kaudumangalam, from all other streams for joining this national webinar. This program would have been impossible without our completely caring and lovable academic dean, Dr. M.S. Vijay Kumari, the most respected HOD of Economics Department, Dr. I.G. George, all other teachers and students of the department. As the members of this amiable family, we thank you all for your maximal hard work, faultless efforts, and unbreakable unity, which had made this webinar a grand success. Thank you all. Over to Adina Anthony.
Thank you, Ms. Christina, and thank you all for your cooperation and support. Thank you.